Donna, can you hear me? You're muted.
Hello.
Okay, great.
I'm here.
We're going to get ready to get started. Okay. You have everything recording? All right. We are on. You may start the meeting.
We are good to get started?
Yep.
All right, let's proceed. Start with a roll call.
All right, Kathy Cavalier,
Present.
Tiffany DeMayo, present, Chris Wilson,
Present.
Frank Falcone,
Present.
Donna McCall,
Present.
Rosario Scalia, absent, and Nathan Lane, or Kenneth Lane, absent.
I would list that Rosario's probably, I mean, he officially submitted his resignation, so so I suspect that he did not intend to be here tonight.
All right. Well, do we want to do a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance? Like that?
I'll pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good. I would like to motion that we approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We do not have a public here today, so we will bypass the public comments and consider approving minutes from the August 13th meeting. Fine. Can I motion that we approve the August 13 minutes?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? New business. Discuss, clarify what alterations can be done once a property is on the Class 2 resource list. I don't know who added this, so. what
Yeah,
discussion?
that probably wasn't exactly the wording. I think that's a good question. It was permit process for Class 2 and Class 1 resources.
That is what I put on the old business.
Oh, okay.
Permit process for Class 2 properties, what is the process and where can we find that information? We want to ensure that it is written somewhere. Is there an architectural professional to make recommendations on historic modifications?
So that is.
I mean, I would
basically-
assume there's a fair amount of flexibility there.
Our ordinance is not specific to anything inside at all. And to the outside, we don't have specifics written into the ordinance. So anything that would require a permit that you're doing to the exterior of your home. Technically, as it would read, if you're on the historic resource inventory, you go to get the permit and then Andy sends it to Historic Commission, and that's how we should, and I think that's stated in here.
So what you're saying is we don't have firm guidelines in there. We have the utmost flexibility to.
Yes, so that when they come before you, then you have the flexibility. Yeah, there's no written that you must follow use the same windows. I mean, some ordinances are very specific on that, and moldings and colors and all. We don't have any of that in there.
We have no
No,
colors.
no, we don't, but I've heard that mentioned, that so it's not real clear. Along with that, in F in the ordinance, as part of our, I think it's under, but the Historic Commission duties, to review applications and offer recommendation for any demolition to any historic resource identified on the historic resource inventory as a class 1 or class 2 historic resource. Modifications include demolition, alterations, or additions. So any of those, so modifications, anything that would require a permit. And this would extend to the class 1 historic resources as well. So that I'm not sure how that gets clarified. But that would mean that the township would, anything that would be requiring a permit on, say, jobs that are done on any class 1,
I guess-
also would have to be probably brought before and discussed.
I guess
Yeah,
the
so that would be
question-
like the bridge, the Bartram, and I guess Dunwoody with the octagonal school as well, right? Yeah, and St. David's Church. So any modifications that require a permit, the township also has to, and any resident would have to.
Do we want to review that section and determine if we want it to be any more specific? Or do we want to just leave it very much open as a, we know it when we see it, kind of?
Well, I guess you could, there are, I guess it's called a HARB. We don't have one. That's the Architectural Review Board, in some historic, I think Haverford has one when you went there.
Mhm.
So that they had, someone's, or a group that specifically knows the architectural parts of the,
Yeah,
so someone come in and have a design, say, and they want to put an addition or something that's,
I will say Haverford's ordinance, at least when I dealt with them a number of years ago, was very loose. They also carried a ton of flexibility, but having sat with them more recently, I don't know if they've tightened it up or if they're just, more serious in reviewing 1 month and then advising the next.
yeah, I mean, I think that was our intent. You want to prevent circumstances like Tecca and Charlotte's, where the structure was encapsulated within a building that it no longer looks anything like. I mean, so that is a huge thing. So you're looking at the bigger pictures there of like totally,
Well,
they kept the, those are the things that you would then review, and that would be the architectural part of it, or the part where you
Okay.
would, and then you could, I would think you could call in anybody if you had somebody who's specializes in that. There's the,
well, maybe the next time we look at the ordinance, we take a look at that as well and just say, are we happy with this? Or do we want to look into?
right, and then how would the township, how does that work as far as their procedures? I know re-roofing requires a permit, so if that was to
Well-
do,
The roof only requires a permit if we're going down to a certain level, like if we're replacing certain things, and I think we probably will on the roof of the paper mill house when we do that, so we'll probably require a permit. Because we're going to do some structural changes, is my understanding, to a
Right,
couple of the.
but at that point, because of the way the township has to do it and bids that go in, it's kind of a done deal by the time the permit process comes to.
Well, that's, I mean,
It's
that's.
not
what
like I could say, well, we would prefer, is there another alternative type of roof? At that point, you can't do that because that's already been determined.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're
And that's
looking
what-
at when you look at the permit, you're determining. I mean, I think the role that the expectation is that you play is. You're not determining if. Like, you may have an alternative, but if what they're doing doesn't go against what like what would be historic, you wouldn't matter. Like, and I know you said,
Right,
you had a preference for the metal roof over the shingled, over the cedar shake roof. But, I don't think that you're gonna, as a board, go either way on that, other than you might say, we would also accept this as a guideline. But because there's no guidelines in the process, I think what you're really looking for is, does it seem to fit what the historic?
oh, definitely, that is the
Well,
major thing.
that
That's
is
why I
the-
said there's a lot of other,
Yeah, I think that
Things
it's
that don't
not so
fit
much,
in.
you're not looking, I mean, like, I wouldn't think that you would determine whether or not, like, for example, I know there's some rafter issues at the paper mill house that have to be addressed. I don't think we're going to worry about that at all here. What you may be, and so based on that, I don't think the permit becomes an issue to come here in regards, like, you know,
That's what I was thinking.
it's, but if they were, let's say we were deciding to put an addition on the back, because the building didn't have restrooms and we were gonna add restrooms to the building. Then when we looked at it from a sense of what does the outside of it look like compared to the outside of the building? And does what the new, like,
I
you
know,
don't
I
want to come in and put on
understand.
vinyl siding
Mm,
on a building that doesn't have vinyl siding that's historic, right? I mean, that just doesn't make sense. So, you know, what is it, what are we doing that, how do we stay within what the look of what's there? That's what you're really looking at.
Right, so that step, if it came to here, prior to that, you would have input. So I guess in interested parties that would have input, so it would be separate from the historic commission. So maybe there's a method that, since the Historic Society works with several of those buildings as well, and has some kind of conversation on what is the proposed ideas for that. That's what I'm saying, that could be separate from the commission. At the end, you get to that, you're asking for a permit to put something on, and it's not, you can't turn back and say, oh, we want to do something different now.
Yeah.
But prior to that, how would you set up something where, even like the Bartram Bridge? Because I know they were included in the roof that did go on back.
Mhm.
So that the Historic Society, and that one actually should have been a cedar shake roof, but they were included in that conversation. And that's with the decision process, and that's how it came up that way.
Yeah.
So that's why I was just, even if you don't do it in the end, it's nice to have some other input that's historic oriented.
Yeah, I guess I don't know that we have a mechanism ahead of time. The way what the mechanism is that when I submit my permit for my project, it then triggers the review here. Just to make sure that it's within context of what we're doing historically with, it stays within the historic nature of what's there. And I mean, that's true even like if I want to put a shed on the property,
Right.
it
And
should,
usually we'll discuss that.
Yeah.
And we may have ideas too, if,
Yeah.
separate me from, and say the Historic Society and say,
Yeah.
that Ed or somebody who's on that wants to do something in the back,
Yeah.
we would have to come and discuss all that.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm seeing it, but maybe it could be, we
I mean,
could work
honestly,
something
I
out
think-
reciprocating.
I think the mechanism for advanced warning of these things is gonna be public knowledge that this ordinance exists. Because right now, people just assume they're gonna go in, file a permit and go.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
as-
the
and
average
as- and
the
as-
resident,
and as we've
yes.
been around longer, and it becomes apparent that this commission does exist, then people will be more likely to know, hey, maybe I want to reach out to the commission
Beforehand.
first.
Right. And then perhaps I just say, well, could we be in the conversation if
Mm-hmm.
you can include the Historic Society on the buildings that it affects that, if they have input? Because I know a couple of the guys do, so, okay, so that would be a separate issue in that, so,
And the general knowledge may also extend to somebody calls in to the building department, codes department ahead of time to get information.
mhm,
And they may inform them that, hey, your property is a
Historic.
class 2 resource.
So if they have gone through the process, they know that they're a class 2 resource, and that's
yes,
where we're starting from.
they will know that.
I know we haven't had any discussions around what that process looks like, other than the board and zoning and everybody says, okay, great, now they're done, but there's nothing that person or that homeowner goes away with saying, oh, cool, now I know what I have, what my property stands for. I don't,
Yeah.
maybe it's something that we need to make more official, not like official, but like, here's a welcome letter to class 2 historic resource property ownership, right? And what that entails.
Do we do that when we pass them?
Hmm?
When we pass them, the properties, when they vote and pass them, do we send something to the owner?
Well, no, because usually the owners.
Know it, but they didn't know it went through. I had to
Yeah.
tell a
Yeah.
couple people like McIsaac's
Yeah.
and them.
So that might be
They
something.
thought they were gonna get a plaque.
Well, I mean,
Oh,
that,
well.
that might be something
That's what
that,
we do.
that we need to,
pay for
con-
those, yeah.
why not,
So,
but that might be something we need to consider, not a plaque necessarily,
No.
but
Maybe there's
You
a
know, if-
certificate. Maybe you guys want to come up with
Yeah,
a
that's
certificate.
probably
And
something.
maybe you want to state that you were determined to be a class 2 resource based off of,
Mhm.
you know, this
Right.
item, like pick it right out.
Mhm.
So that, you know, if they, you know, that may be the basis of choosing how they handle going forward with permits or
Right.
something, because I don't remember all the different choices, but if one of them was a certain architectural style, then obviously it becomes more important what the addition is versus if it was more of who lived there, you
Right.
know, so those are the kind of things that I would think, you know, that you could set into place. And in that, maybe you have a letter, please be aware that going forward, any permits that you have that impact the exterior of your home most likely will need to come before the historic commission. If you wish to do that prior to submitting the permit, so that we can weigh in on what you're doing, so that it doesn't slow the permit process up or something. You know, if you wanted to do that, that would be a way of putting out the information.
Yeah, I think having a certificate would be nice, give them recognition, but also having a FAQ of sorts, like now that you are on the historical resource, here's why, here's what you do, you know,
Yep.
quoting the ordinance, per the ordinance, these are your responsibilities, these are our responsibilities.
Yep.
So you want, you want to do that?
Yeah,
Certainly makes sense to start.
oh yeah, I think,
She'll
you know, it's
design
gonna
it.
be a little bit
Yeah,
of a
let's-
process, like
yeah,
an
let's-
outline, here are, you know, the important things we wanna say.
Come
and-
up with your
then
certificate for
flesh
the
it.
design of that, and then maybe separate thing for FAQs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we can send them both
Mhm.
in an envelope.
That would be a fabulous segue into discuss of properties that are currently on the class 2 resource list so that they can be on the official Historic Commission preservation list. So that was something we discussed a while back, a few meetings ago, about we don't have a list, so we need to create a list.
Yep.
And is there any software, township software, or
Officially.
something that we need to use, or is it an Excel document that we share with the township and we just sort of own as a commission?
Yeah, I think that, I think there would be two ways I would approach this, and I think the way that I would approach it from your standpoint is, I would look at it that you're going to maintain basically, I think an Excel sheet is easiest, and we'll make sure that that is maintained and uploaded on the website,
Mhm.
so that it's easy. I think that
Yeah.
our property software, we need to make an adjustment to that, and it probably has a code in it that allows for marking a property as historic. It probably doesn't break it out as class 2, class 1. So we'll have to look at maybe creating a special thing in our software. But I would think that for the purposes of Heather and Andy and Zach in their department, as they're reviewing things, it should be one of those things that pops up on the screen when you type in 121 Main Street that happens to have been a class 2 resource. When I pop that up, you know, I type it in and I'm pulling that property up, and maybe like right on the front, it pops right up in front of me and says, oh, by the way, this is a historic class 2 resource. So that before, when we go to enter permits, it then triggers certain things on our behalf, on your behalf, and it triggers certain things in our team's response, so that we have that happen like in our utility billing software. You know, if a customer, certain types of customers pop up automatically, so that it's a quick reference, so you don't make the assumption that they're just like everybody else. And in this case, we wanted to say whoa, stop, we're historic, and I need to make sure that you don't just go approve the purchase or
Right.
approve the permit, purchase order, you know where my brain is. Approve the permit without further review.
So we provide Heather with an Excel document and then she would,
I think
And
I
with
think
the
it
request
becomes
of
their
these-
responsibility to
Okay.
maintain our software for properties.
right,
From the township's perspective, I think what goes up on the website would be something that you all would maintain.
okay, how would we maintain the website?
Well, I think that you're just maintaining the sheet that gets loaded up.
Okay,
So I would say that you create the file, give that to Heather,
yeah,
and then Heather will go ahead and load up the website
Yeah,
with the
okay.
new sheet each time that you want to update the sheet.
okay,
So a spreadsheet with
Property?
approved class 1 resources, addresses, blah, 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 approved class 2 resources,
Mhm.
proposed class 2 resources.
I wouldn't put
not
proposed.
proposed.
I
Not
don't know that I would
done
do
deal.
proposed because they may be through the process before we would get it loaded or
Well, when
not.
I say proposed, properties that we're interested in elevating to class 2, we haven't got there yet because we do have a long list of them.
Well, yeah, I think there
Yeah.
is a list though.
But I
There's a
don't want
list on-
people to be confused
Yeah.
with what's on, the website should just list what is
Mhm.
according to our ordinance, what they are. Not just because you,
So at this point, it would be 5 class 1s and 4 class 2s.
that's how I would
Yes.
interpret it, yes.
Okay.
And then
And
they can
then-
look at the,
And
there's
then
a,
the proposed we can have on our own sheet or on.
there's a
the
map.
thing.
Well, they can go, there is a map. I know we have it on our webpage and I'm sure it's on the township. Catherine Spar did it. And
Yeah.
I like the
yes,
map
and they can go
because-
right onto the dot.
Yeah.
If you're just interested, because it's all based on the list that we gave them. And that was years ago, so
And,
Yeah,
that just
there's
shows you
quite
the
a few of them
potential,
that
that's
need
all
to
the
be there.
potential ones,
Yep.
yeah.
and then what will happen, we won't do this every, I mean, because we're doing it so often, we're not gonna
Mhm.
do it every time it changes, but probably 1 or 2 times a year, our zoning map will be updated to show this as well.
Mhm.
But that piece, that'll be some kind of overlay, like little dots or whatever that does it. Most of the time, it won't be a problem, depends on how small we make the zoning map. It will be whether or not you can see it. I have a couple properties, it's really hard to tell because they're just very small.
Mhm.
But most of our historic properties have a little bit of property with them, so they're not quite so bad.
Okay. So that would be a takeaway then to create Excel. And who wants
Yeah, I
to
think-
own,
I've got it in. I've got the ones in process in a Word document, so it'd be easy to kick them over to Excel
okay,
or approved.
You might, I said Excel, you might reach out to Heather and say, what would your preference be, a Word document or an Excel document? The advantage of an Excel document is I think it's easy to update and change real easily.
Yeah, I feel
But-
like Excel's getting worse though.
Huh?
I feel like Excel's getting worse though,
Yeah.
getting harder to use.
So
But yeah, whatever Heather prefers.
just whatever makes the sense to make an easy upload. I mean, right now, you almost could list them on the website, right? Because there's so few.
Yeah, right
Right.
now we've got 4 approved,
Yeah.
5 going to planning and 5 that are just kind of out there.
Yeah.
so, if we were to call that a subcommittee, would that be you and I?
For the
And
list,
you? Mhm.
Mhm.
I'm fine with that.
Old business?
On to old business then. Discussion and possible action on applications to submit to the Board of Supervisors. I think that would be my 5 that are just sort of outstanding. Is that what this
Mhm.
means?
Yes.
Oh, okay, because I was gonna mention that, you-
Well, now that we're in a lull and we've just.
from here, I'm gonna use this book and go to the owners and, put in more applications signed by the owners. That'll be new. They'll be new and I'm gonna use the ones here, but I'm using the,
So while you're doing that,
people who
I'll-
want to go.
I'll get these 5 written up. I'll share them with you guys. And
Sure.
What ones are they? You have them
we've
somewhere?
got those first 5 that never went anywhere.
Oh, yeah,
They
there
felt
might
the
be a reason.
cracks.
What are they? Which ones are they?
3523 Goshen. 4109 Goshen. The one was the one that we saw with the giant renovations, and the other one was the Spring House. 405 College Avenue.
Well, with the spring house, did we ever get in touch? Did anyone ever find the owners of it to?
My understanding is the homeowners association was notified,
Mhm.
and then we held a hearing. We haven't moved it forward.
We held a hearing, they didn't come, you mean?
Again,
No one shows.
I think we've held a hearing for all 5 of these. We've just never pushed them to the supervisors, to my knowledge.
Yeah, I would check on the spring house one, because I thought that the last I thought was that we were, or it was unclear who to reach out to. Because we know the homeowners association, but how do you get in who?
I do not know how they were notified, but
Yeah.
apparently they were.
Okay.
So here's the dilemma. So what's happened is that as we go along, the roadblock is always, does the owner agree? Does the owner know? Even though that's not criteria, and we know that. So now, first, I would assume that if you hold a hearing and no one comes, and you hold a meeting 3 times and no one comes, you don't mind you're just absent. So you're not objecting. So you have to come, if you're objecting, then you would have to come to the meeting to object. I mean,
What I don't know is will people look at the ordinance? Because we send them out, we refer them to the ordinance. What I don't know is will they say, I'm not going to spend my time in front of the historic commission. I'm going to wait till it goes before the board.
right,
You know, but.
but as we found out, that was 3 times and no show,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
not everybody's good. They roll the dice that
yeah.
they have it in, I don't know, or some
Yeah.
just like people don't.
Well, I
care.
think part of that one changed hands, so I'm not
Yes,
sure.
and there's a couple, and that is
Yeah.
the concern too.
Yeah,
2 more are gonna, in the process of changing hands.
yeah, I know.
So we sent to the owners, the original owners in both times.
And I would think like 4111 is a perfect example on Goshen that we need to send it to the new owner as we go forward because it's
I
going to
think so.
change.
We don't wanna,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, short of stopping in to see them.
I mean, I
which
think
is
they're
sometimes
aware
easier.
that the process is going on
They are.
because
He
I
told them.
can't imagine that they wouldn't have told them. But the idea though is that as we go forward, particularly if we know there's a new owner, we need to notify the new owner.
Earl's Lane as well. I don't know if that's switched over yet either.
Which one?
Earl's Lane.
Oh, I don't know that one. Yeah, I don't. I know the one you're talking about. I don't know if it's,
I mean, like, would you
I don't know if the owner has switched yet. I don't know.
Next question.
Would you email that list?
Have you talked to the folks who have the little house on that, right next to it?
I do know who, yes,
Because I would think they would be willing to do so
They
as
are.
well.
yeah.
Yeah, because they're,
Matt Scoble and his
yeah,
wife, yeah.
yeah, because I've talked to them several times and they were very excited that it was a historic property, so.
Right. That one, yeah, and there's multiple in the book that I visited and they are all willing. They're just, I don't always show up to get the application. I have to kind of deliver it to the house. It becomes a little, yeah,
So they-
time consuming.
I don't think people are necessarily opposed.
No,
I just don't think they care.
No.
I don't mean it,
no,
you
you're
know-
totally, oh, yeah, great.
but you have to do the
Sign
work.
this. Please, I fill it out. So, yeah, and they're all like, oh, yeah, great. And that's why they don't come to object or anything. They just want it to go through. So I'm taking a lot of the easiest ones to put through
Okay.
first, because I don't know of any, there's another one for sale. Lord, on
The-
Gradyville and
I was just pulling this up.
Bishop Hollow,
Bishop
yes.
Hollow,
that's
Gradyville.
The Gothic house.
I know, and it just went down. My husband's like, but there's too much money. He needs to fix it up.
So,
I'm like,
yeah.
Yeah, it needs a little bit of work.
A little bit.
It's not bad, though.
It's not terrible.
No, it isn't. It
But if you're,
it's a very cool house. I mean, that's a pretty neat place.
Yeah.
A little spooky. I
It-
went there too.
It went down in price.
Nobody was in it and I didn't know that. And I'm creeping around the house trying to get pictures for the book. And it was like, oh my God. She must have, they had moved already and I didn't
Yeah, the
know.
house was
Yeah, that's
empty.
why it looked that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the spring house, I just don't know who you could have even notified. Since it was a woman, I sent the email on to Heather, the woman who initiated the conversation, like who is responsible for the spring house?
Yeah, we would have to find out who's the president of the
Yeah.
HOA, and that's.
Yeah, and that one, so I wouldn't push on that one.
Who notified them? Because let's ask who they notified.
I don't know.
Because my understanding is the notification had to have happened before we held the meeting. Or it wouldn't have been on the agenda.
Yeah, I don't know how Heather notified him.
I don't either, nowhere. What was her name?
Let me see what my notes says.
Spring house.
I mean, my note says we discussed it in February.
Oh, we did.
So, since we pestered before the agendas happened to find out were these notified, so that we wouldn't discuss it before it was notified. The assumption is somebody was notified, or else we hold a hearing early.
No. Spring house, no, who is this? No, it's the Biddle House. Yeah, I can't find the woman who wrote me about the house. But they have a homeowners association. Again, it requires somebody stopping up and just saying, hey, who is,
Well.
and that's what it
would
required.
also-
And I only say that because you could pursue it and you could go through. I just know from past experience, if it'll probably go the rest of the way, but when you go in front of the planning commission, they're always like, does the owner know? Or who is the owner? And if you're vague or you don't know, it's not a real good presentation to
Well,
do
it
that.
might
'Cause
also
They're,
be-
they're a hard sell.
It might also be a good time if we're going back for further notifications to mention that this property needs a new roof badly.
Yes, it does. So there you go, by neglect, can't do that. This is not on it yet. So there should get, it's like a double bind there.
All right,
They're not on the list yet, but if they're doing by neglect, you're not allowed to. Typically, you cannot do that. Our ordinance states that you can't
yeah.
neglect a property and then say I have to demolish it. But it
And that's
hasn't
the
been
kind-
listed
and
yet,
that's the
so
kind
if
of
you want to
property-
pursue
And that's the
it,
kind of property that would be neglected forever because nobody really.
so
takes
then just go
accountability
with it. And if it's already been, no, just find out if they've been notified and
All right.
we'll move it on then.
Well, let's find out what we can. Has it been notified? If so, who? And was there any response? Because you're right, we don't want to get to the Board of Supervisors and be standing there going, I don't know if anybody was notified.
All right, I don't know
what's
who the
up."
owner is. I don't know who's responsible. We should know all that.
Yep.
And what
All
were
right.
the other ones? The Hashem's, we did send an application on that, the Hashem House? Yeah, we did.
Is that 3523?
I think it is, yeah. They came before us with their addition,
Yeah,
but we never went through with the application
We-
thing. We didn't, yeah, I'm
No,
sure
we-
we sent them notification.
I thought
And they
we-
were in favor, even though I signed it, but they were in favor, so I don't think they
I thought we
came.
did the,
And they didn't come.
no,
No, they came to present their addition, but they never came after
I thought we did the application while they were there. Meeting where we discussed it. and
Yes, but then, so it should be all the way through as well, right?
It's one of the 5 that hasn't gone forward yet.
Okay, so how do you know that they're somewhere sitting? Or where are they?
Probably sitting on my desk with me.
The applications?
To my understanding, we have not pushed any of these forward to supervisors.
Oh, just for their approval like last night, you mean,
Yes.
okay, go, okay,
I don't know why.
I see, okay, yes, I was
If I
confused.
recall, they were going to be rewritten in the new format.
Well, I think some of these are from,
Yes.
some of these from when Connie was here and some
Yeah.
of these are.
Okay,
from
so
when I was-
you're gonna put them into your
So,
format.
They just kind of got hung up. So we,
I
Yeah.
am
why
confused.
we're in between, since we pushed
That's
5
good.
through last night.
Yeah.
We won't have any again until after next month. Let's take a look at these 5 and decide which ones to push forward. Whether it's all of them or whether it's just one or figure it out.
Okay,
I need to find some time to sit down and write up the
what are
form.
the other three?
What?
What are the other three?
6 North Newtown Street Road, which is one of the first ones we talked about.
Oh,
That is owner opposed. 103 Tanglewood.
I don't know why that didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Yes, Tanglewood. I don't, was that sent to the notification? You need to know if these people were notified. That's why I know
We
Beaver
discussed.
Town was
we discussed-
notified. He
we-
came.
We discussed Tanglewood in November of 23.
and we held a hearing and
Yeah.
they didn't come.
Yes,
Okay, so they aren't objecting then, in my book, if you don't come. So, okay, so that can go through.
as I said, these 5 have been through the process. We just haven't moved forward.
Okay,
All right, so let's
confusing.
close the old business.
Okay,
I don't think we have any actions that we need to vote on from that. We still don't have a public, so we can bypass the public comment tonight. Anybody have anything else we need to discuss, or are we ready to adjourn?
So just on those properties, so you're going to put them in the new application format for Board of Supervisors, and we're just going to push all of them through, and as they get slated on the Board of Supervisors.
Yes, I'll get them all written up. I will be missing some information, so I'll probably reach out to Kathy for it. But otherwise, I think we're good to go on those. If we wanna further investigate the question of what kind of notification was done for the spring house, I can reach out to Heather and see if she knows.
yeah, that's, I guess I'm wondering, were they all notified? I know Deepa Town was because he came. Tanglewood, I'm not sure.
I will reach out.
I never got a
I'll-
definitive
yeah,
that
I'll
they were
look through.
notified or sent a letter.
Yeah, I'll look through because, I mean, they're gonna be in the minutes if they were. It's just my
Okay.
computer is gonna die and it says, no, please stop.
What do you mean they're gonna be in the minutes? That we discussed them?
Over
or-
the year, yeah. It'll say what we did or didn't do, like my
Okay.
notes will say,
No,
The,
no.
the document that I emailed you will tell you when we discussed them, which will help you pin
Perfect.
down.
I think Heather will know because she sent out initially when she took over,
Mhm.
asking me about all these properties, and I don't know if she knew the status of them at that time.
I'll just send her we discussed
Yeah, you
this-
might want to go through her.
We discussed this one and in this meeting,
Okay.
do you know anything about what notification was done? Particularly with the spring house, since we're not sure how that one was done.
Yeah, and send her all of them, as I say, we're just making sure that all
But it's just the
notifications were.
it's just the 5.
That's
Yep.
what I mean.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah. And she can either tell me that she doesn't have that information, or she can say, yeah, we notified X on this date. And then.
so we can redo them, if they weren't sent. I have no
And,
problem doing it.
why don't you put a note into the minutes to discuss that next month? Just as a follow-up. Because that way, if we've decided not to send any forward, we'll know.
Okay. Do we have any other
Uh,
items for next month?
Kathy, are you gonna come up with some new
Yeah,
apps,
new what?
Applications?
applications?
Yes, and I'm gonna start with using, except for the,
All right, it is the 10th now.
Right, so.
they're gonna be, I'm gonna take from the book that you all saw, so you'll know that that's where they're in. Because I met with most, of the people in there.
Okay, well, it's the 10th now. Let me know
I will.
in like a week if you got any that were able to be notified in time.
And when would I have to submit the application to make it in
What's- how-
time?
Mhm.
How many weeks do we have to notify
Oh,
before the next meeting?
So 30 days, right? Or did we
So,
get that changed?
so
to
we would
28?
need to
No, it's still
notify,
30 days.
Yeah.
we would need to notify by like Monday or Tuesday.
okay.
Our meeting is the 8th.
And it may be that you select some and do the legwork, and we're talking about December instead of November.
Mhm.
Yeah, because the 8th is
I'm
only
sorry.
28 days.
November instead of October.
Okay,
Yeah,
I was a
that's
month ahead.
fine.
yeah. We're not gonna make any new ones by the 8th.
No.
So that gives us time to figure out these 5 while we're.
Yeah,
working on
since
getting-
they're already pretty further along.
And we can work on reviewing the homeowner certificate and FAQs.
Mhm.
And we're probably gonna, and we'll probably see the 5 that went through the supervisors last night. We're planning at some point in there.
Yes. Will they make it that quick?
And Andy and I talked about it today. I know he was gonna review it with Heather. I'm not sure they'll make it for September's planning commission. They may make it, they may be October's. We were going, based on what I know is on September's planning commission, I don't know that all 5 were gonna go anyhow, just because of the amount of stuff that's on their meeting. I didn't wanna.
I
Just,
get
I just wanted to see the
I can
balance.
imagine.
Yeah, as long as,
And they wouldn't be until the end of the night, and, you
Uh-huh.
know, it was like, it's hard to know how quickly they're gonna go through. However, that being said, the October one, I would put them all on based
Okay.
on what I know it's.
I'd rather do that if you could get
Yeah.
them all in one.
Well, I know that's your preference, so.
So if you have to wait, that's fine.
as long as we know when they're going.
But I
on.
think some of them had already gone to the Delaware County
They
Planning
did,
Commission.
yeah.
So, because there was a confusion on
Yeah.
that, so I wanted to make sure that didn't get resent, because I don't
Okay.
want them reviewing it a second time.
Yeah, I know.
And
Okay.
so I've asked that it not be resent, but I've also asked that we are a little bit more,
Okay,
that we look at it in such a way that we can try to do as many at one time. My comment was, I think that because they're all owner supported and owner requested, I think you probably will get them through relatively quickly.
yes,
And so I'm happy to try all 5 at one time, but and it would be
Yeah, that-
easier if, it would be easier if the meeting wasn't gonna be long.
no, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying, if you need to wait because it's so long, yeah,
Yeah.
it's fine. You might as well
Although
wait long.
I've just heard that one of the projects that I thought was gonna be on the September may be dropping off, so it may not
Okay.
matter, but we'll let you know. But I think I don't know that we have enough time to notify anyhow, because I think there's a 30-day window from the time that the board
To let them
says.
know there's a planning.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, so we have to do that.
Very good.
Okay.
All right, then, I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
I would like to second your motion to
All in
adjourn.
favor to adjourn?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
sorry.
I feel like we kind of shouldered you out tonight.